So good morning. Thank you so much, Paul. I am extremely excited. Like Paul mentioned, we've taught in different settings. I've taught in a traditional setting, started my career teaching elementary school as a self-contained teacher. And for those of you who might not know what that means I taught every subject to a group of about 30 or so children every day. And as I moved up along, the elementary school journey, I taught kindergarten, first grade, third grade, fourth grade, ESL transitional, fifth grade. When I moved into the middle school space and the literacy specialist space, I noticed that in middle school, it was difficult to use time in the way that I was able to use it as an elementary school teacher. So one of the things that I'm excited about is what can happen when I'm not married to a bell system, 45 minutes, and what can happen with students when I'm not married to I'm only teaching reading and writing. That's not how our life works. We read, write, problem solve, and communicate in all areas of life. And so that's one of the unique possibilities that we have in this model is, yes, we will be teaching and learning the Texas essentials of knowledge and skills. We'll also augment that or boost that up with some of the more rigorous standards that the Common Core provides. Those are the standards that the majority of the country adopted as what kids need to know and be able to do in order to not just succeed in school, but also succeed post-secondary and in their careers. So we will be teaching those things, but the vehicles and ways in which we will be learning them is just very different. So rather than just sitting in a classroom all day, listening to a teacher go womp, 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 which is what happens to 11, 12, and 13-year-olds after a short amount of time, we have a variety of learning experiences available to us. So yes, our home base is the Houston Health Museum right down the way. And if we wanted to, we really could spend a year there. I don't know if you've been there before, but the education director there has been working on curriculum for a long time and is excited about the fact that instead of just a one-stop field trip, he gets to see and work with kids over time. That's something that some of the education directors in the museum district just have not had an opportunity to do. And so while Jen and I are quite experienced and very proven results when it comes to teaching and learning, we also have all of these other educators in this museum space that are just as or more I guess I should say proficient or experts in their areas. And so they also will be partnering with us as we build out the curriculum and as we provide tons of educational experiences for our school. So yes, the group will be small. Small is powerful. Small gives your child and gives us an opportunity to connect in a way that a larger middle school model just really can't provide. And so while this first group of 40 students might be doing something new and innovative and different, they also will meet and exceed the standards that all other middle schoolers in the city are supposed to meet or exceed. And so like Paul said, we do have more information in the back in writing, so I won't talk at you forever about some of those things. I am really interested to find out what your questions are, but before that I want to turn it over to my partner, Miss Jennifer Maschek, and give her a chance to talk to you guys as well.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so nice to see you guys. Thank you for coming out on a Saturday. I know that it's your family time, and I really appreciate that. So I've been teaching secondary schools for the last 15 years, so math and science. I taught for 10, and then I coached and worked with teachers for the last 4. And Cicely and I have been together for the last 4, working together to actually promote interdisciplinary studies. And so we work together a lot to try and find out how kids learn, not just learn English and reading and writing, but math and science and what the similarities are. And the closer we get to the best practices of teaching, the closer we get to each other. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what does a day in the life look like for my child if they come to our school. And we provided you with a visual. And there are a couple of different options that we've been kicking around as far as what we're going to do. However, We will have a standard drop-off and pick-up place. And so every day your student will arrive at the Health Museum in the back on the branch. They'll be greeted by one of the principal learning coaches, and then we will begin our day. So we will either start in the Health Museum and have a lesson either upstairs or actually in the exhibits. And then we may come over here to Judson Robinson and have some physical activity, and then go back to the Health Museum. And so because it's such a short distance, we'll be walking and traveling together. There was another option. We may start, we've scheduled some tours with the Museum of Fine Arts on teaching students how to observe and look, not just at art, but how to actually observe anything. And so we may start, you would drop off at the Museum of Fine Arts, but then we would walk a couple of blocks, go to the Museum of Fine Arts. We would have that particular tour is with an experienced docent from the museum, and then we actually have studio time at the Glassell School of Art for the students to do sculpting and painting. And then when that's finished, then we'll come back to the Health Museum and we'll have classroom time for lessons for tomorrow. And then the students would be picked up at the Health Museum at 4 o'clock. We also have optional programming in the afternoons, which we're still working on. We've been working with Judson Robinson in their after-school programming, and they have programming from 3 until 6. And so we are considering that this may be a drop-off or a pickup for after-school activities around 6 o'clock. So if they were interested in nutrition or basketball or baseball, then they would stay until 6 and they could get picked up here.
I know it's like the optional part seems a little fluid, but the reason it seems fluid is because we need to figure out who is this group of 40. So what we don't want to do is take all this time and say, this is our curriculum, this is our after school, and then smash a kid into that. The idea about personalization is we know the big rocks or big ideas that kids need to learn, over the course of 3 years. But then how we want to personalize that is we want to find out who are the 40 students, what are their interests, what do they already know, and what do they need to go back and learn, what skills, talents, and abilities are they coming with, or what things do they want to learn. And then once we find that out, then we can kind of match the providers that we've talked to and find out how we can get each small group of kids or even one child the opportunity to learn those things. So everyone might not want to learn to play golf. We're hoping, and I'm hoping, that we do all learn to play golf, but we do have opportunities right here at the golf course of experienced professionals who are like, how can I use what I already know how to do and give that to students? And so we hope that we do have some people who want to play golf. I'm not very proficient at playing basketball. I can cheer you on, but thankfully we have people here who are. And so once we find out how many kids want to do these different things, then we'll kind of personalize not just our after school activities, but also what we do during the day for those small groups of children. I taught 6th and 7th grade reading and writing, both at Yes Prep West, which is a charter school, and at Billy Reagan K-8 Education Center, which is a traditional model. And I would be in the situation where, you just get things cooking and then ring, the bell rings. And oftentimes, kids act and behave and learn in different ways with different teachers. And so oftentimes I would see my students later on in the day and they'd be like, oh, there's Miss Benoit, there's Miss Benoit. And I'm like, don't just act like that when you see me. I want you to be a high-level reader, writer, problem solver, communicator, have a great character presence all the time. And so some of the things that you run into when you go into larger middle schools is now you have 8, 9 different teachers, trying really hard to do their best, but there's not always that consistent, cohesive model of character and culture. And so that's another thing that we are excited about being able to provide because, as a parent, my son will be one of the students in the school. I'm excited about being able to mold and create a whole child. Yes, our kids will be very smart and intelligent, but they'll also be able to interact with anyone in the community. So they'll know how to do what we sometimes call code switch. When you're in the Museum of Fine Arts, your presence is a little bit different than when you're on your basketball team in the afternoons. And we want to make sure that that's all connected, and that kids, when they leave and they're 13 years old, they are comfortable anywhere in this city. They are comfortable and know how to interact with professionals of all levels. They are experienced enough to be able to even tell other Houstonians, hey, did you know that Asia Society is over here with a beautiful, open space, and tell other Houstonians what they're able to do. And we think that these adolescents will become the model for what 11, 12, and 13-year-olds are really capable of. So I think it's really exciting.
So first of all, people have asked, so what if it doesn't work out and I want to take my child out, or we move? Is this transferable, right? And the answer is yes. We're going to be a private school. We will have transcripts, and your children will be taught a lot of the same of what they would be getting if they were at their neighborhood 6th grade school in the state of Texas. So we're using the 6th grade standards the state of Texas has identified, and we'll be using that and some, right? Another question somebody asked is like, so what else are you guys doing? Like, you have all this time and opportunity. Well, we're calling it the 4 C's, okay? And the 4 C's start with college and career readiness. We want to make sure that our students are moving in a direction where they're going to be ready for college and be ready for whatever career they're using, right? So that's first. The second one's character. We are strong believers in the work around character development that a lot of the innovative schools around the nation have started. And so we're going to talk to our kids about right and wrong. We're going to talk to the kids about how to behave when you're in the Museum of Fine Arts versus how to be when you're on a basketball court, and how to always demonstrate the type of behaviors that we know help kids as they move on through life. We're going to talk about community. Because we're based in the community, there's probably going to be an opportunity, and we're still debating this a little bit, but we're going to talk to parents as well around what does it look like around community service, right? If the food bank is doing a food drive, we might block off a chunk of time to go and assist, right? Because we have that opportunity, because it'll be a local-based, some local-based work. We're still looking at that, but we're going to reach out to our parents and also, of course, talk to our students about what might be possible around community engagement. We intend to use the Metro rail line. I'm going to put that out there. We intend to use Metro. We intend to be around. But anytime that happens, we're going to be in a small ratio. Like, I would be here, Tanya would be here, and it's not just going to be 2 to 40. It would be like 6 to 40. And we would be with, watching our little group of kids, but making sure that whenever we're going out into the world, we're taking care of them, but also giving them a chance to see the museums, the Dynamo Stadium, Reliant Park, and all that. We want them to see different parts of the community so they understand where they exist within the city. And finally, communication. Communication is something that is critical to student success, whether it be written or verbal. And we want to make sure that we're constantly helping our students develop and grow in their personal communication skills. And not just stand and deliver in front of a group, but more importantly, one-to-one. What does that look like? And so those are the 4 C's that we're going to be moving toward as we go through 3 years of work with our kids.
We do have more applicants than we have spots, and we do have a selection process. We do also have an opportunity for kids who might not be selected to be placed on the waiting list. So someone might move, get transferred, or something like that, and we may be giving those other students a call. So that's the answer to the first question. The other question you asked was about the uniforms or dress code. We talked about this more than you care to know because we wanted to balance the fact that we do want to be a group, and we also, as people who've been in middle schools for some time, are a little concerned about the polo khaki kind of robotic thing that's happened over time. So while we won't have a uniform for every day, we will have 2 things going on. The first is we have a professional dress uniform that we will say these days are designated as professional dress days. So if we're going, let's say to Rice University to do something in a class, we might ask our students to wear the professional dress uniform, which will be gray slacks or skirt, white button-up shirt. Young men will be asked to wear a red tie. Okay, so that's the professional dress uniform, but that will only be on professional dress days. Other than that, we're asking students to dress as they please within our dress code, and we have, things that we've delineated as what our dress code is. Just make sure that we all, even though I might be showing my personal style, I still look presentable to the world. So we think that that's a good balance between the two options. And then the first question that you asked, I saved that for last because it's something that we've also toyed around with. So what happens when we've done all these awesome things and kids are way further ahead than most 8th graders would be? Are we going to just shove them off into their neighborhood, high schools, and then they sit there and they're like, really? Now I'm bored, and we struggle with that a lot because that is a concern. Right now, where we are with that is that we don't know that we will be able to provide an opportunity to keep going to 12th grade. But we do know with the connections that we have in the community and the small groups that we'll be working with, that we will be able to match students with schools that are providing learning experiences that will be not boring and specific to where they are at that time. So what that means is if we have someone who looks like a great candidate for HSPVA by the time they're in 8th grade, then we as the learning coaches and as an organization will work to help make that happen. Maybe there's someone who's very interested in law enforcement or criminal justice, we will help make that happen. We also have other smaller private schools in the area that are tuition based but also offer scholarships. So as we move through the 3 years, it will be our responsibility as learning coaches and as an organization to start making those connections so that when someone is ready to move to high school, we have a place where we know that they will fit and continue to grow and thrive.
So we are looking for kids who want to learn in new ways, who want to explore the city, who want to use technology, and who want to work and play well with others.
We've come to know that when given a different type of learning environment, kids can do a lot more than sometimes they've been able to do. So while we will look at those results and we will do a level of pre-assessment in potential students, we're not asking for that as criteria to apply. We are not equipped, unfortunately, to provide more intensive special education services. So if students are in need of major special education services, then that might not be a good fit for our school. And if students have, other emotional and social needs that have been identified also as in need of special education services, unfortunately, we're not able to provide that. So those would be some things that families would want to consider in trying to figure out, is this a good fit for your student? But the 4 criteria that Jen mentioned really is what we're looking for. And we recognize that all students might not fit within, those 4 criteria. And so we want to make sure to communicate those 4 big ideas so that you can see, is this a good fit? Use that kind of as the litmus test for whether or not this is a good place. So we do want this to be transferable. We think that it is important that each year we do take the STAR exams that are required for the grade level. For one, you may need and want to move into a different school and you want to show how children measure up. We are also interested in showing how well this model works at a state level, and so we will be taking the STAR exam. What we won't be doing is we won't be test prepping all year for the STAR exam. That's not happening. But we will take the STAR exams that are necessary. We also are looking at a nationally normed exam as well. So once a year, we think it's important, for example, like the Stanford exam or maybe the Iowa test. But we're looking at that because we know that kids need to know not only how we measure up in the state, but how well are we able to compete on a national platform. And so those are the 2 standardized testing situations that children will be involved in. So who are the providers in the area? Who's willing and able to work with us because they want to and we don't have to pay for that? Who are the students at HSPVA who need to fulfill their service component and want to come over and provide a dance class to the students in our program who want to learn that? So now would we say everyone's now going to dance? Probably not, because we're not providing that level of fine arts program. But how can we match up smaller groups of students with people who are interested in partnering with us? Yes. Most often that type of learning would take place during that 4 to 6 optional time.